What's up everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're doing a modification that, well, two actually, that have been on my plate for quite some time. You guys are seeing this video after we took a little bit of a gap. We've missed a couple weeks here for uploading. Kyle and I have been insanely busy. We're gonna give you guys an explanation about why, what's going on with the channel, what's going on with each of us, why we haven't been uploading as much. We're going to talk about that in another video, but thank you all for supporting us, and we see everyone's comments, people asking where our videos are, what we're doing. Thank you guys so much for reaching out and supporting us, and stay tuned. We have plenty of more content. We're just going to have a little bit of a gap here while we're both figuring this stuff out, and then we'll be back. Swing coming back strong. So today we are installing two different pieces that are going to help me make more power. One is the COBB flex fuel kit for ethanol, and then the other is the DW65c fuel pump. So what these two things are going to be doing, they kind of work in succession. I have my tune for flex fuel coming on this Wednesday up at Bren Tuning, which is amazing. They do a great job. Ethanol, a flex fuel tune is going to really allow me to unlock a lot more power on this car, a little more reliability, and just pretty much more, it's a safer engine, it's a much more reliable, less prone to knock, better engine cooling, cylinder cooling from the use of ethanol there, so, and then also lower emissions. So all those things kind of come together to make a great package. When you do switch to ethanol in our cars, if you're running a higher blend, E40 to E60, 65-ish, you're gonna need to switch out your stock fuel pump, because the stock fuel pump is not exactly rated for an ethanol blend, so that's why we're switching over to the DW65c one. A lot of people are debate between AEM and DW65c. I went with the 65C because it was recommended to me by Bren Tuning. I've always said this, guys, if your tuner has a recommendation, go with it. Go with what they're comfortable with and what they recommend, because they have probably the most experience with individual parts, seeing them over time from different customers and things like that. So I'm sure AEM also makes a great kit. DW65c makes a great kit. This is the one that they recommended, so I went with that. Simple as that. So let's talk about a couple things. Because we are dealing with electrical, we are also dealing with gas today. So just a couple safety things. One, obviously going to be removing the battery. Anytime you're working with electrical connections on the car, you want to remove the battery, or at least remove the negative terminal. Two, we're going to get as much fuel out of these fuel lines before we remove them by pulling the fuse on the fuel, the pump. So the fuel pump fuse, we're pulling that, starting the car, letting the car turn, pull all the gas out of the lines. And then the last thing we are doing for safety today is we have this, which I haven't shown you guys yet. So we have a fire extinguisher, which is awesome. This one, I haven't shown you guys this yet, but it's basically mounted directly to my seats. And this seat can still move backwards and forwards, which is great. And then I just have a rag on the top so it keeps it from rattling, but has a quick access pin like that, and you can just pull it up, easily reachable from the driver's side. I highly recommend it. I'm gonna put a link down to that entire setup, the mount, the bracket, and the fire extinguisher itself. So I'll put that down below. Cool. Other than that, let's get that fuel pump fuse out. Let's get these lines drained, and let's get started. So here's your fuel pump right there, or the fuel pump fuse. Boom. So I'm gonna put this on the table behind me so I don't lose it. Grab my keys. There it goes. Wow, that was pretty bad. One thing I also wanted to mention, guys, so you always want to make sure that you have your fuel gauge below half a tank. If you are higher in the fuel gauge, essentially when we're accessing the fuel pump, which is underneath this rear seat, the level of fuel will actually be higher than where the fuel pump access panel is, and it'll spill out as soon as you pull that out because the filler neck is higher. So always when you're doing this, be at least half a tank or lower. I'm just below 3/4 tank. I should be okay, knock on wood, but yeah, something to keep in mind. So now that the fuel is pretty much out, we can start working on the flex fuel kit. So next step is removing the fuel line itself, which is this one right here. So end to end. So let me grab a couple rags here, and grab a couple rags and some screwdrivers. So I'm just gonna tuck this as much as I can underneath here, just in case there is any left in there. That is exactly what you don't want. Gasoline spraying everywhere in your engine bay. Especially when it's really warm and you've just driven it. All right, now we're removing the back end here, same thing. So here you guys are nice and situated now. Let's see what comes in this kit. We have the sensor itself, a whole bunch of wiring, a couple bolts, and a long and a short fuel rail. So the short one is going to go on the right side, or the left side, sorry. It's like this. Long one's going to go on the other side. Beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. So we're going to be mounting it right behind this plastic bit right here. Just goes right there. All right, so this was kind of a struggle. I got the bolt in for mounting the actual COBB. Flex fuel kit, line's locked down, long line goes up to the back firewall, that's locked in, and the short line goes up right here, bam, all good. So one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, I'm not going to show you guys the wiring. I will be mounting my little sensor right here, but essentially, I don't have to do the wiring yet because once you do the wiring, that's when you actually need to do the tune. So I'm going to just keep the wiring out until it gets to Bren tuning because I need to get my car up there. So he's gonna be doing the actual wiring right now. The sensor is just acting like, it's acting just like a fuel line, obviously, because there's no different information. You don't have to change the tune with the fuel lines there, but we will be mounting the little sensor right where this bolt is, I believe. So super simple, just acting like a pass-through, and that is pretty much done. Let's go back and do the complicated part, which is the fuel pump. So here is the fuel pump itself. DW65c, comes with a nice extension harness, a bunch of O-rings, and some lube for the O-rings. They have a really good instruction manual on their website that I'm going to pull up on my phone. Let's go over into the back seat and pull the back seat off and then access that. All right. So as you can see here, there's just one little clip here. That is out of the way. So we're just going at these individual little 8mm bolts, which are very rusty, so I'm hitting them with an impact first. Looking good so far. So now we're just going to be very carefully pulling this out. The key here is that key thing to remember is that there is a float at the bottom here that we are not going to break, because that's our fuel level sensor. So, just putting a piece of plastic while I work on the fuel pump assembly. I'm putting a piece of plastic over all this so nothing falls in. That's very, very important. You don't want anything in your gas tank, guys. So, cool. Let's go over back into the garage and start working on switching the fuel pump over. All right, guys. So here's the fuel pump assembly. There are a ton of videos online about how to do this, and because of that, I'm gonna have to feel my way through because it's kind of weird and complicated. So I'm not gonna be talking too much. I'll show you guys just the time lapse of this while I work on it. And if I have any tips and tricks throughout it, I'll let you know. But otherwise, I'm just kinda gonna shut up and focus on getting this done.
Ryan Little.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is your stock fuel pump and filter. Here is the stock spacer, very important. And then down in here, there's one rubber O-ring right there. This, I actually need to cut off this little 3-prong thing. I just wanted to double check on that, make sure I was doing the right thing before I did this. All right, bing, bang, boom. Key thing here, guys, is we don't want any plastic getting into the engine. So I'm going to clean this surface off and make sure all those individual components are good to go. So the instructions say that you can use the OE spacer or all 3 of these rings. So I'm just gonna use all 3 rings. Just like that. And then let me just put a little bit of this lube they supplied on those, because you don't want these tearing. You really don't want those tearing. You actually install it back, just like this. So I actually just felt The rings go in. Perfect. I think that's it. Now we just take this piece, which I'm going to actually sand down real quick to get some more plastic off. Right back on here, just like that.
Ryan Little.
So it is pretty much done. Last thing I'm gonna do is just wipe all this down with some fresh gloves, get all the particles and dirt and grime out off of the face of this. We are back and assembled and everything is looking good. All the electrical connections are good. Float is still intact, that's very important. And ready to go back in the car. So, pretty much doing the exact same thing on the way back in. Make sure you're doing this first. And we're just slowly lining it up. And these are very small bolts, guys, nuts and bolts, so I am just putting them on by hand, make sure they're not cross-threaded, and then I am just very gently going down. And this is an impact driver, so I'm making sure it's not doing any ugga-duggas. I'll do this by hand with a ratchet once they're all seated.
Ryan Little.
And last thing to do here is put our electrical connection back in. All right, I think that is it. So before I close anything up in here, so we're gonna put the battery back in the fuse, and then we're gonna prime this, make sure it turns on, everything's kosher. We're gonna look in the engine bay and make sure there's no leaks from the lines we did up there, and good to go. All right, so we're gonna prime it. So I heard it come on. That's good. Let's try this again. Prime it again. So I'm hearing the pump kick on really, really good. Sounds like water, some liquid's moving. Just a couple more times. First, start. A little bit of stutter, but I'm going to log, let's see, change my gauges, change monitor, let's go to fuel pressure. All right, and we're getting really good fuel pressure. Let's see, top left corner there, fuel pressure. So let's keep the car going for a little bit. AFRs look good. Cool. So I just let it idle for a while until it went back down, and I just watched the access port. Didn't have any issues, everything looks good. what I showed you guys there in the top left corner, the fuel pressure, I think it's in the wrong unit. It showed PSI in the corner, but I mean 500 to 1,000 PSI fuel pressure. I don't think that's right. So maybe it's I don't know, maybe it's in the wrong unit or something. I'll have to look into that. But overall, car is running smoothly. Don't have any other issues. Again, I'm gonna go check for leaks anywhere in the engine bay once more, but I don't wanna show you guys buttoning everything back up. That's just something I have to do on my end. But thank you guys so much for watching. Basically, the plan of this car is I'm getting the ethanol flex fuel tune by Bren in a couple days here. Within a week. So next week I'm going to be uploading another video for the reaction for all the added power we have from adding ethanol, which is absolutely amazing. This fuel pump setup with the flex fuel is basically the best setup you're going to have. A lot of people talk about running. This is actually a question I've answered a couple times on our Instagram. People have asked what's essentially the best for how to add ethanol. So should I run an E30 tune? Should I run an E60 tune? Should I get flex fuel? Let me just talk to you guys about that really quick. So the difference between a flex fuel tune and an ethanol tune is that when you get a flex tune, the car will automatically change the tune in the background for no matter what kind of gasoline or ethanol you're putting in there. Obviously you can't put race gas or something like that, or methanol, that's completely different, but anywhere between 91 octane, pure 91 octane, all the way up to essentially E60. You could push it a little bit, but you're just gonna be having reliability issues with wearing down the components in your pump, in the fuel lines, in the injectors. So right, E60 is like the perfect spot where you're getting the best bang for your buck without damaging any of your other components. So flex fuel allows you to run any blend in between there. So the car will pick up or reduce power, or change timing, etc. With an E30 or E60 map, an OTS off-the-shelf flash tune, you have to calculate the exact amount of ethanol every single time that's going into your gas tank, which you can do, but the ethanol content in E85 and then the ethanol content in normal gasoline fluctuate very, very drastically depending on where you are, what gas station you're getting it from, the weather, humidity, etc. So when you're thinking about getting an E30 tune, always be on the safer side. You know, there aren't crazy aggressive tunes, but you really have to be careful about knowing exactly what's in your gas tank. With a flex fuel tune, you never really have to worry about it because it's going to adapt to no matter what is in your gas tank. So that's my thoughts. The second part of it is if you are going to get an E30 or E60 tune, try to get an E-tune rather than just an off-the-shelf. Bren Tuning does really good ones, Fat Body. I had a great experience with Ambot for an E-tune a while back, so definitely look at those guys. An E-tune is always going to be more reliable than just an off-the-shelf. So if you have a very reliable source of ethanol, definitely go for it. But yeah, couple things. Like I was talking about before, couple tips and tricks for doing the flex fuel kit and then the fuel pump in the back here. Make sure you have less than half a tank of gas. I kind of made the process more difficult for myself. I had 3/4 tank and it was just at the brim of almost overflowing. So really make sure you're less than a half tank. That made it really simple. Again, those bolts in there are very sensitive. They're small, 8 millimeters. Don't crank on them with a really high torque impact driver. Just use everything by hand. Make sure you are covering your lines. I sprayed myself a little bit of fuel with the first line I pulled off out in the engine for the flex kit. And that's about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys want to see more Subaru content, more truck content from Kyle's side, make sure you leave a like down below, leave a comment. What do you guys think I'm going to make in terms of power with all the mods that I have? I'm guessing without the front mount intercooler, which we're adding later, still waiting for that to come in, I think it's going to be 365, 370, maybe 375, and then probably once I add the front mount, it'll be right around 400 to the wheels. So at that point, I'll be pretty much full bolt on except for headers and a turbo. So thank you guys so much for watching. we will see you very soon. More content coming out. And again, thank you all so much for supporting us during this kind of transition period for the channel. So cool. We'll see you guys soon.